Pleasure to see you guys. My name is Brogan, in case you guys don't know me. Karen, is it?
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you, Karen. I've seen you guys all before. Yeah, we're talking about foam rolling today. Who here owns a foam roller? Raise your hand if you don't own one. All right. How many of you have it just collecting dust in your home? You can keep your hands up, that's fine. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we're going to be working on foam rolling. We're going to be going over basically major benefits of foam rolling, 3 to be exact. We'll be talking about 3 common mistakes to avoid, and there's plenty of them if I'm being honest with you guys. We'll do a couple of hands-on exercises, pretty much hitting all the major areas. We want to focus mostly on like hips and shoulders, but we're going to do everything in between then, as well as just kind of putting this into practice as a daily habit. Because one thing is having the information, the other part is actually just implementing it more throughout the week, throughout the day, that kind of thing. So making it as practical as possible. Okay. Throughout this, if you guys have any questions, it's rather informal. Just raise your hand and let me know. Shout it out. Shoot a flare gun in the air. I don't care. Just let me know if you have questions. Okay. We'll go low. We'll go slow. We'll have a good time. It's going to feel uncomfortable at times. I'm not going to lie. It's going to feel better after the fact. That's kind of the bread and butter when it comes to foam rolling. So I suppose I'm going to talk it at you guys for like 10 minutes or so, and then from there we'll actually jump into the exercises. So the biggest benefits of foam rolling, I could spend an hour on the topic of benefits, but the biggest ones I like to talk about specifically are the increased range of motion. So typically, you'll notice if you guys do work out here, which all of you guys do, occasionally we'll do warm-ups that include some foam rolling. We'll do the lats, we'll do the glutes, we'll do that kind of thing. The purpose behind that is actually just kind of increasing blood flow and essentially kind of like preheating the oven, right? We're actually increasing the blood flow to that specific muscle to make it more active than it otherwise was when you were laying in bed that morning. So it's a big part of it, increasing range of motion, gets everything nice and ready to go. Decreasing muscle soreness would be our next big one. Obviously, you guys work out, you guys get sore. It might not even be the day after, but even the day after that. If that is often the case, I would say that, she even brought it on. What's up, Gidney? Typically, the way that you can decrease that delayed muscle onset soreness is actually foam rolling. Almost like doing the work before it actually becomes a problem. So obviously when we do a foam rolling, it doesn't exactly feel great. Maybe if you're a masochist, but maybe not. So typically almost getting that out of the way early, mushing up what's called the fascia, which we'll kind of talk about as we go along. But all this to be said, kind of tangent. When we work on a foam roller, we're not exactly working on joints or anything like that. We're working on what's called the fascia, which is like a big saran wrap around your entire body. It's different connecting tissues, connects to ligaments, bones, muscles, everything in between. Essentially allows your body to move and groove in a very fluid manner rather than kind of achy joint, jaunty little style. So when we're actually foam rolling, we're working on the fascia, works on our central nervous system, our brain. It sends signals up and down and tells our body what we kind of want to accomplish. So range of motion, decreasing muscle soreness, and then in general, just kind of improves tissue quality. If you guys have muscle knots, and I know I do, I'm actually really excited about today because I've got a bunch in my back. I'm very excited to knock those out. When we foam roll, there is virtually nothing better than foam rolling when it comes to relieving those muscle knots. And muscle knots can happen from whether you've been sitting in a very poor posture all day, or if you're just having weird movement imbalances, which we'll talk about even more. All of those can create muscle knots, which if you don't know, muscle knots are just a collagen globule, just kind of like a big bunch of fiber that's kind of been built up around an area, and it's a result of kind of like inflammation, essentially, okay? Try as you may, when you stretch, you usually can't get that muscle knot out, and that's when the foam roller comes into play. That's kind of what we'll be learning about today, focusing on a bit heavier. Okay, so we'll get right in. I suppose the common mistakes that we're going to find when we are doing foam rolling are going too fast. And if you guys work with me, you know that I'm always telling you guys to go much slower, specifically real slow on a lot of things. And foam rolling, mostly, more than anything else, we really want to go slow, we want to breathe and relax, which goes into the next mistake, not relaxing. I get it. Foam rolling sucks sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely not gonna feel good while you're doing it. But after the fact, you'll realize why you did it. When we foam roll, guys, and I'll keep harping at you when we get into it, you want to relax. You want to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and make sure that we're activating the parasympathetic nervous system, physiologically making you guys relax. All that to be said, don't grit your teeth, don't activate your muscles that we're working on. It's defeating the purpose. We want to relax. We want the body to relax. So help yourself out, relax. Last thing is not targeting the entire muscle, meaning if I do have muscle knots in my back and there's just that one little spot that I'm really trying to hit, by all means, you can jive into that spot quite often, but the mistake that you'd make is not actually doing the entire muscle, and that might even just be creating more problems than it is relieving. So we want to take the entire, if it's the bicep, I'm not just rolling here, I'm going all along the entire thing. Okay, smoothing out, just like rolling out some crepes or something. That's not how you make crepes, but you get the idea, okay? All right, so that's kind of my lecture. I'm not going to speak at you guys this entire time. I'm going to do it while we go into the exercises. So again, questions, concerns, aches, pains, just let me know as we go along. But without further ado, grab your foam roller. We're going to hit the glutes, baby. Best thing we can do. Okay. So we're going to sit down on top of this foam roller. This is where the fun begins. We're going to work on our right side. We're also going to do our left. Pretty much everything we do today, we're obviously going to do both sides, but bear with me. So for the glutes, what you're going to do is cross one leg over top of the other. Doesn't matter which one. If we can get it all the way up there, the better. Then you're going to hike this leg up just a little bit. It's all relative. Lean just slightly to the side that's bent. This is the important bit. Put your right hand back if your right leg is bent, opposite side if that's the case. And then we're going to basically lean into the bottom of your butt cheek all the way to the top of kind of where your belt line begins. And we'll do real slow and controlled motions here, all the way up and down on that one cheek, for lack of a better term. Big, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And in general, my advocation is about 30 seconds up to, you can do 2 minutes for all I care on a single muscle group. Again, we're going to be focusing on the glutes here first, but big, deep breaths. And the reason for that is to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of making you relax. Okay, so even if you don't want to, breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, it'll do the trick. And again, we'll spend about a minute here on each exercise, if not more.
So a couple things that Brogan was mentioning as far as if you don't feel much tension in there, the more you bend the knee, what you're actually doing is stretching the hip out on this side, which will enable you to get a little bit deeper in there. You don't have to, but just know if you're like, boy, I don't really feel it much in there, by actually bending this knee, it will put this leg in more of a stretched position, which will allow you to get deeper into that tissue. So again, you can just go as far as you feel comfortable, but that's what's actually happening is you're putting the leg that you're working on in a stretched position. And one other thing, your knee position here can also dictate how where angle you're hitting those fibers from. And so you can bring your knee up, you can bring your knee to the side, you can kind of play around with it to figure out where are you more tender. And generally that's going to be where you should spend more time.
Yep, butts are all different sizes, so definitely go around the entire bit, okay? We'll go ahead and switch sides, same exact thing. And just food for thought, from every bit of research I've ever done on foam rolling, there actually is no benefit to more pressure versus less pressure. It's entirely relative. Your body doesn't quite understand the difference. But the important thing is we are pressing into it. Foam rolling, above everything else, is literally just pushing your body into a foreign object. It's pretty much the same principle as massage therapy as well. So there are different kinds of foam rollers. Obviously, Guinea's got one with little bits on it. I have one that has the same kind of thing. Obviously, we're on these high-density foam roller, or just foam rollers. They all do the exact same thing. I cannot stress that enough. If you're out there shopping for a foam roller, go for whichever one's cheapest. It's all going to do the same thing, different densities, different preferences, that's all it ever is. Okay? So we'll spend at least another 15 seconds on this side, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Guinea's having a good time already. I love it. You got tennis today, Guinea, or what?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We'll get you nice and limber for that. Uh-huh.
One other thing to note, if one side feels more tender than the other, that's not that uncommon. We're very asymmetrical creatures. Everything's not perfectly even. So a lot of that is probably just due to something in our lifestyle, where we maybe favor one side more than the other. And probably just an indicator that I should spend a little more time maybe on that side than the other.
Absolutely. And I will say, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not going to diagnose anyone here or anything like that. But anecdotally and across the board, if you have low back pain specifically on one side versus the other, that's quite often the case. This specific foam rolling exercise, one of the best. It's one that I myself use all the time. I pretty much do it every morning. And if you do find yourself sitting down, whatever your job looks like, if we're at a desk all day, your glutes are tight, your hamstrings are tight, calves are tight, that can stress the low back. So work those glutes, one of the best ones we can do. There's a reason we started with it. Okay, on that note, we'll go ahead and get into the quads, okay? Quads, you would guess it, there are 4 muscles here, 4 different ways we can hit this. We're gonna do both sides one at a time. So you're gonna lay down on one side here. You can have that opposite leg on the ground. I typically like my forearms for this one. And we're rolling up and down the entirety of that quad, up down, basically up to where the hip bones start, all the way down towards the knee. It's a good time to bring up the fact that when we foam roll, we should never really be rolling over joints, okay? As I talked about, we're focused on the fascia, muscles themselves. So if there's no muscles to be foam rolled, you're kind of just putting a big brick of foam up against your bones. And I'll tell you, your doctor's going to tell you not to do that.
What should be the pain level? Like if it's hurting?
1,000 or less. Just kidding. Yeah, so when it comes to pain, again, it's entirely relative. If you do have muscle knots in your quads, I'm guessing you're going to feel this one pretty poorly when it comes down to it. But we're not looking for, if this is too much pressure, you can again take a little bit off. You can be on your knees, just a little bit lighter here. If you want more on any of these exercises, and we'll kind of get on this for like the calves and stuff. If you ever want more pressure, which I know that's what Chris is thinking, right? More pressure, Brogan, please. You can cross one leg over and really drive into that. Again, it's all relative. It's not going to give you anything more than the rest, but if you want more, go crazy. If you want less, bring that leg down and just lightly hold yourself.
Yeah, to start with, because it's hurting so
Sure.
much.
By all means, yep.
So when's the best time?
Good question. Yeah.
Pre-workout, post-workout?
Best time to do foam rolling is the time you'll actually do it, Chris. I'm gonna be honest with you. If we haven't switched sides, go ahead and switch sides. So yeah, good question if I'm being honest. One that I always have to bring up. When is the best time to do foam rolling? Different, yeah, the blanket answer is the only time you'll do it. If it's in the morning, do it in the morning. If it's at night, do it at night. If
But
it's
is it better to do it before exercise or after?
different reasons as to why. I'll say if you do it before a workout, what I was talking about, kind of like waking up those muscles, we're bringing blood towards the muscles that we're working on, activating them, increasing that range of motion before a workout. If we do it after a workout, we're also getting the benefit of smoothing out the fascia. It's kind of been beat up over the course of a workout, so we're kind of helping delay that onset of muscle soreness and increasing the range of motion after the fact. And then additionally, we're kind of getting that blood to flow there to help recuperate that muscle. So it's pretty much the same reasons. You can do it before, you can do it after, you can do it on your off days, on your recovery days. Again, you can't really, similar, I've done all the research, you can't really overdo foam rolling, you can just underdo it. So do it today, do it tomorrow, do it the day after that, and the day after that. Those are pretty much the times. Yeah, I'd say before, after, you can do it before bed. I typically set aside times In the morning, I do a little routine for 10 minutes every day, and I start with my glutes. Okay, so lower body, you guys have both done both sides for those quads. We'll work on the lats, okay? Lats are this big old muscle right here. It's a big one that we work on in these class. Everyone's smiling because we've done this before, and it don't feel good, okay? So, grin and bear it. Big deep breaths. You're gonna bring this leg or this arm over top, palm facing up. Do not take too much pressure on this one. Be light on yourself, guinea specifically. And we're gonna roll up and down just like so, okay? Kind of scooting our hips up and down. Doesn't require a whole lot of motion here. And if it feels tight, it means you gotta do it more often. So we're just kind of sitting below the armpit here. There are also a million different ways to foam roll. I'm just kind of going over some basic ways, but similar. So yeah, so on this lat exercise specifically, we can go up and down. We can also roll forward and back. Okay? Forward and back just like so. We're still hitting that muscle and talking about hitting all angles of that muscle. It's the same kind of thing, just different angles. Okay? Chris is loving it. I can see it in his face. Oh yes.
Is there a way to control like how heavy you wanna, how much weight you wanna?
I would say if you can, maybe put this down a little bit. Kind of roll more or less with those hips, and that'll take a little bit of pressure off of it. I'd say that. But the lats are going to feel it. I'm going to be honest with you guys, the lats are totally just going to feel this one. If you haven't switched sides yet, go ahead and switch sides. Breathe, breathe, breathe. I bet you guys are forgetting to breathe. Carol. Palm facing up. Big deep breaths. Help your body help itself. And again, you can roll forward and back a little bit cylindrically. Yeah, this one ain't easy. This one's going to feel it. Uh-huh. Give me about 10 more seconds here. 10 more seconds of pure fun. Right, Carol? Oh, yeah.
It just gets very...
Huh? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome job. From here, that one might have felt terrible. This one will feel a little bit, I guess, better. It's still going to hurt a little bit, but that's the point. Working on the upper back, which for me, this is where I carry my stress. This is where I get my muscle knots. With this one, we'll spend a little bit more time because I'm guessing there's some muscle knots out there in the crowd. So give yourself a big old hug. We all need one of those. Bring your hips off the mat. And we're basically going to roll up towards the scapula, those shoulder blades, up and down towards the middle of the back. We'll do up and down vertically, just straight up and down. You might not feel all that much here, but then after that, we're going to go ahead and turn slightly to the left. Same kind of thing. You might feel a little bit more tension, a couple of those muscle knots maybe. And then we'll do the same thing on that right side. I'll kind of let you guys know. Now here, if you do find a muscle knot, this is kind of my opportunity to talk about those. When we're hitting muscle knots, we actually want to sit into that spot specifically, apply pressure for about 30 seconds or so with big deep breaths. And pretty much like magic, it will gradually dissipate that collagen globule. It's going to literally send a signal up to your brain and back down to that kind of spasming muscle to literally shut off that muscle knot, okay? So I've got like 5 in my back that I'm very much looking forward to getting rid of. And what you need to do is just lean into there, big deep breaths, kind of apply pressure up and down across the little hard globule of collagen. And big deep breaths, okay? The reason we're giving ourselves a hug, similar to those glute exercises, is we're kind of opening up all the muscles in the back. The scapula are usually kind of in the way, and this is a really nice way to hit those. Now, if the foam roller isn't quite doing it for this exercise specifically, we're going to probably talk about these a little bit at the end. We have lacrosse balls, and literally lacrosse balls do the trick. They're smaller, it's going to apply a lot more pressure, but it can tend to get a little bit deeper in there. At the end, I'll kind of show you a couple ways you can use the lacrosse ball, but just know if you're just kind of not hitting that muscle knot with the foam roller on the back, good way to kind of get around that is hit it with the lacrosse ball, okay? Next one, we're going to go back to the legs, hit the upper body there, we're going to do the calves, okay? A lot of us have office jobs. We're sitting down quite frequently. Those calves are going to be tight. So we'll do one side at a time here. We're going to work all the way down from essentially that Achilles all the way up to right where that knee begins. Again, we're not actually rolling over joints, but you guessed it. Bring those hips off the mat. Roll ourselves just like so. Okay? And we do need to go over the entire muscle. Okay? All the way up, all the way down. You can keep your hips on the mat for this one and just kind of roll them across there. Again, the pressure is relative. And I didn't actually bring this up yet, but similar, we can do cylindrical rolling here as well. You probably have maybe 1 or 2 muscle knots around here as well. And then additionally, the same principle applies on muscles where we're activating and relaxing a muscle. So you can actually activate this calf, push it against there, and then relax it, and activate the calf, relax it, and just kind of go off and on with that. And it's doing the same principle. It's really just different strokes for different pokes, whichever one you kind of like more, but different ways to go about it. I usually go with the cylindrical roll along my calves. I do some running, I do some hiking, that kind of thing. My calves definitely feel it, but be sure to hit the entire muscle here, okay? It's a long back half of our shin. If you guys do run and you guys get shin splints, that could be a whole workshop in and of itself, but if you guys ever do get shin splints, number one thing you should try and focus on is rolling out your calves, because that's usually what happens. We'll go ahead and switch to that opposite calf. Same exact thing here. Big deep breaths. Guinea's just having fun over there. I like it.
But this is working.
I like it. I like it.
It's not in me.
I don't know if that's necessarily what we're going for. Not wrong though. Oh, goodness. Man, my left side actually.
How do you like visually identify muscle knots, or can you feel it?
Yeah, you can definitely feel them, yeah. So if you're rolling and all of a sudden you just kind of feel like it's coming over like, I don't know, like a rock or so, like a little bump, that's what that muscle knot is. Which, are you feeling any at all so far? Hopefully not. There's just going to be a spot essentially, so like if I just rolled, so this calf for me feels real nice, it's real smooth, I'm not really hitting any resistance, but on this side just so happens, I'm rolling, and all of a sudden if I turn slightly this way, I'm feeling like a little bump just go up and down, just kind of squeezed across it. So that's what you're kind of looking for. And again, when you do, you're sitting into that, you're literally just pressing and sustaining the pressure. Sounds super fun, right? 30 seconds of pure bliss, and then hopefully it kind of shuts off that muscle knot a little bit, okay? Now all this to be said, we're obviously spending about 40 minutes here today on this foam rolling alone. I recommend you probably don't do that on the regular. When we're foam rolling, we really want to focus on frequency over intensity, okay? Meaning, I'd rather you do your calves, for 2-3 minutes a day rather than your entire body one time for 40 minutes every week or so, okay? It takes a long time of repetitive stress and overuse to get the muscle knots, to create the tension in our muscles. So we want to apply that same kind of philosophy throughout the week, throughout the day, throughout each hour if you can, for the same purpose, okay? So did the calves, we will do the hips. Hips, I'm going to be targeting the hip flexor. It's right across here. I usually point to it because you can't exactly see it when I'm doing it. But one side, we're here, leaning into it. We're not aiming for the hip bone. Please avoid the hip bone and every other bone. Slight bend towards that side, and we're rolling up and down along the front of that hip. Okay, hip flexors, For those that do have that office job or just find yourself sitting quite often, I guarantee this is going to be real tight. And you should foam roll it, you should stretch it, everything and above. And then again, kind of focused on that stretching versus foam rolling when it comes to muscle knots and such. You'll notice over here, this resistance band, it's got a nice, good, solid, essentially a muscle knot if you're looking for a visual representation, Sasa. So we got a muscle knot here. If I were to try and stretch this bad boy, I can definitely stretch it. It's definitely going to stretch out. If I have a muscle knot in my calf and I go to stretch my calf, it's definitely going to stretch. I'm just not getting the most bang for my buck. The muscle knot is still there, okay? The foam roller works by literally smoothing that bad boy out and thus creating us a longer length of that muscle, okay? The biggest thing for me when it comes to foam rolling, and the reason I actually do it, in all honesty, like, it doesn't feel good, it's not that fun, but it really helps with your overall performance. If we have that little collagen globule, that little knot in my calf muscle, in my hamstring, whatever it is, your body has to work that much harder to not compensate that specific muscle. If I have a muscle knot in my quad, in my calf, in my hamstring, and I go to do a lunge, your body's got to work that much harder to ensure that I'm actually getting through that motion with a substandard length of that muscle. So it really helps yourself actually perform a lot better. You'll lift more weight, you'll feel better after the fact if we get rid of those and we keep our body moving and grooving in the right way. All right, so hips, if we haven't switched sides yet, please do. If you have, then spend about 10 more seconds or so here if you'd be so kind. Hip flexors need some love. Any other questions, top of your head or anything like that? Moans, groans, getting? Until we start to get to that hip bone, I would say. We're rolling over that meaty bit right in front of there. Just kind of not yet the quad yet because we kind of already hit that.
Is that targeting the flexor, or it's just a muscle that's kind of used forward on the lower body?
Most of the hip, or wait, what was the question, sorry?
Like, do we do exercise targeting that hip flexor?
If you've ever done, we've done a couple actually, I could point them out to you, but we've done hip flexor. And anytime we do a high knee, that's your hip flexor. Do a step up, hip flexor. Anything where we're flexing the hip. All right, so with that being said, that's kind of my rundown for the vast majority of like your body when it comes down to the actual foam roller itself. Now again, we do have lacrosse balls. Maybe I'll go grab a couple from the back actually. We got two out here for some reason. But we are going to go ahead and try and foam roll our lower, well, I'll show you one specifically.
Let's go lower traps and bottom feet, just those two.
Cool, sweet actually, yeah. I'll start with the feet, just before they get too sweaty, I suppose. So, our feet, as I talked about, the fascia, the myofascia, is a thin sheath that goes all over your body and cross-intersects at different places. So your whole body is actually very much connected, and I mean that literally. If I have tight glutes, tight hamstrings, tight calves, that actually has to do with the tightness of your foot, your actual plantar fascia. Anybody here ever deal with plantar fasciitis? Terry, anyone else? Lucky you guys, let's keep it that way. And with that, I'll kind of show you. You can do this sitting on your foam roller. We can all sit on some boxes. We'll figure it out. Could you grab some boxes? Cool. So we're going to put this under your foot. That does mean we do have to take our shoes off. And we're literally going to, actually I take it back, sorry. I'm going to call an audible. I want us all to stand up. We're going to lean over and we're going to try and touch our toes, okay? We're going to go ahead and try and touch your toes. Go about as low as we possibly can. Honestly, my range of motion's a bit better already. And guess why that is? You guessed it, the foam rolling. So notice how far you're getting down right now. Now we're going to take these lacrosse balls, and I'll move some boxes so you guys got places to sit. sit. Got 2 chairs over there. Find somewhere comfortable, and you're literally just going to foam roll your foot. Apply as much pressure as you would like. But after that, about a minute or 2 on each foot, then you're going to go ahead and stand up and see how far you can reach after that. Okay? So find somewhere to sit, take shoes off, get comfortable. Yeah, so foam roll your feet. And again, similar, those same principles apply in through the nose, out through the mouth. You can pretty much go all over your feet. And when I brought up that plantar fascia, that is literally the fascia underneath your foot. If you guys ever do wake up in the morning and it's just really tight or anything like that, target this daily. If you guys walk a lot, if you hike, if you do anything on your feet, your fascia take a beating, and we need to basically work on them the same way we work on our calves and hamstrings, quads, and the like. So we'll spend about at least another 10 seconds on one foot and then maybe switch to the opposite or vice versa. Big deep breaths, all the same.
Can I do this with tennis ball also?
Yeah, I get that question quite often. Honestly, kind of. As I mentioned, like pressure is relative.
Yeah.
I can't personally get enough out of a tennis ball specifically to really target it, and it is a tad bigger. I think like weirdly.
Now this is harder than tennis.
Exactly.
Like I used to do with tennis ball, like I still do it.
Sure.
But it feels different.
Mhm.
I prefer those, and I buy them in bulk. You guys are more than welcome to have one if you want. I'll have to bring some more from home. I prefer those over anything else because it also, for the next one you're going to do, versus a tennis ball, that grips the wall better and it doesn't slide out from underneath you. So I've used everything under the sun, and those lacrosse balls are by far the best thing to use. Just because, like I said, a tennis ball will slide out from underneath you on the wall. This is really nice because it can kind of grip the floor of the wall.
Same goes for like a racquetball or anything like that. I also bought like the $12, foot specific one, and I prefer the lacrosse ball. So word to the wise, don't save your money. All right, go ahead and ditch the lacrosse ball. Go ahead and stand up, and we'll see how far down you can reach. There should be at least slight difference. Maybe your hands are on the ground now. Maybe they're well past there. But you'll notice there should be a relative difference here. Now, whether that's part of the calves, whether that's part of the feet, you guys can go ahead and stand up. No need to sit down there the whole time. But as you can see, there is a physiological difference that we're getting from this, okay? If you extrapolate that to the fact that if we do this before we work out, then all of a sudden we've got more length in these muscles. I can do a better lunge, a better step up, anything like that. Whereas getting more bang for your buck, you're making yourself a better athlete, as it were. Okay? So, next one, if someone could toss me a lacrosse ball, maybe lightly, please. Thank you. So, the other thing I mentioned, I'll go up against a wall somewhere. My favorite, and the one that I probably do most at home, is just up against the wall. We're targeting kind of the lower trap, so kind of again around the shoulder blade area. Be careful, find a spot that works for you right here, and then you're going to cross the arm in front of you, the one on the side that you're working on, and you're just kind of going to go up and down here. Sometimes I go side to side occasionally, but you can pretty much find a muscle 9 times out of 10. I've found one myself. Similar, big deep breaths here. The pressure is relative. You don't need to jam yourself in there. And the pressure is going to be pretty explicit because it's a very small object. But we're basically going up and down. Usually you'll be bending your knees, crossing this in front. Same principles apply. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Go ahead and find some spot on the wall. I can move some of these boxes out of the way. And we'll spend about a minute or 2 each side here, okay? So it's just about here, and the way you got here. So it's
I didn't want to swallow that.
and yeah, you'll find them, I guarantee them. If you haven't found them yet, they're there. You will definitely find them. And this goes to show, a lot of times, right, we're on a phone, we're at the computer. That is Number one, static posture. If I spend all day like this, your chest is tight, your back is whack. Give yourself some love and foam roll those traps, okay? 'Cause they are definitely-
One other thing to note, the further your feet are out, the more you'll be leaning into the wall, so the more pressure you can apply. You don't necessarily need to scoot out further, but if you want to apply more pressure, that's one thing you can do, is scoot your feet out, which will allow you to lean into the wall better.
How much is too much though?
No such thing. I mean, it will, this one is really pointed, it's gonna feel a lot. Honestly, if you start tearing up, I'd say you've probably gone too far. Make sure we're crossing that as much as possible. This goes into the fact that there are Theraguns and massage guns of the same ilk. It's the same principle when it comes to that kind of thing, and sometimes those can be a little smaller so that you can target that traps. If you guys have one of those hyper guns or whatever the heck you want to call them, I will say the research that I did, the benefit of those is when it's a vibrating force like that, you can spend $50 and get like a vibrating foam roller. There's what's called vibratory analgesis is the scientific term, but it actually has to do with the fact that spit that out at your next party, vibratory analgesis. But when you vibrate like that, it actually shuts off your pain receptor, essentially, and allows you to get deeper in there while experiencing a little bit less tears in your eye. So one of the benefits of the more expensive Theraguns would be that big word. Okay?
How often, how long should we do this?
Honestly, I spend way too long on the back. Like I do this probably 3 times a day, trying to get these freaking muscle knots out. So I'd spend a minute, come back after that, give yourself a break. You're not just going to get it all out at once. But going back, frequency over intensity, right? You want to spend more times doing it for less time itself.
So maybe twice a day, a couple minutes.
Twice a day, a couple minutes would be huge. That'd be fantastic. If we're doing none of it right now, that's a 200% increase.
If you have certain areas in particular that you want to work on, and you spend 1 to 2 minutes, 1 to 2 times per day, if you do that every day for 2 weeks, you will be amazed within 2 weeks how much less painful this is, and which is a good indicator of how the tissue quality is improving. And like he was discussing, those knots are becoming less and less of a problem.
A big point that I'll make, and maybe the last one, if we have these muscle knots, and if they're left to their own devices, they will in fact create muscle imbalances, going back to that fact of if I have a muscle knot in my quad, and it's been there since 2001, every time I go and walk, all of a sudden my foot might literally abduct out to the right, and that's going to change my gait pattern. Now all of a sudden I'm walking with a freaking peg leg. So do yourself a favor, truly, if we have those muscle knots, take the time to get them out of there, because if left to their own devices, they're going to create muscle imbalances, movement impairments, everything like that. So make yourself a better athlete by getting rid of these things as soon as you can. But yeah, in honesty, that's kind of what I have for today. Any closing questions, anything, you guys can chat with me after the fact.